TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. In here, it's always Friday. Got it all, from salads with chicken, ask Lenny, to burgers with fries, ask Ricky, to sausage, I asked Ricky that too. And then, of course, you can get the variety, anything you want here at TGI Fridays. Spice of life, great place, right here at TGI Fridays. And we're here this evening, and we're happy to be here ahead of the Saints game against the Miami Dolphins. And a pleasant good evening. Ken Trahan with you for another version of sportsNOLAtv. And as always, it's a pleasure to be joined by my three comrades. First and foremost, Torrance Small, former New Orleans Saints wide receiver, who is going to tell you why the Saints are going to win here today. Torrance, good evening to you.
Hey, how we doing, Ken? And you out there in TV land, are you ready for some Monday night football? Doesn't that voice just get you ready for Monday night? Oh, Howard Cosell, love it every Monday night.
You're showing your age, buddy. It's all good. Brian Ellie Walsh of sportsNOLA.com joining us as well. And Brian, good evening to you.
Good evening, Dr. Trahan. That sounded more like Michelle Tafoya than it did Howard Cosell. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited. I am excited. I'm psyched. Monday Night Football, there's not a better game around, and the Saints are on center stage tonight. Outstanding.
Pro Football Hall of Famer, Saints Hall of Famer, every Hall of Fame you can think of, including his Hall of Fame business. Ricky Jackson with us. Good evening, my friend.
Well, thank you. I tell you what, Kenny, I raised up a Dolphin fan, from a little kid all the way. That was the only team that I knew after by the Saints. Now the Saints are my home team, so it's going to be a great matchup tonight.
Who are you pulling for, man?
I'm pulling for the Saints.
Just had to get on the record there with all the soliloquies about Miami. No, Dolphins are a great franchise, and obviously they're on the way back. And this figures to be a good ball game with the New Orleans Saints. And of course, we're going to get into that extensively and tell you about the game itself, tell you who's going to break it down and win the game and how they're going to win it and everything else imaginable. That's all coming up, so stay tuned. We're just getting started. Later in the show, LSU Tulane and Prep, you name it. We'll deliver it here on sportsNOLAtv. Time out here, back in just a moment to talk about the Saints and what they've done thus far this season and how they've arrived at 3-0 as sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays in Metairie. The other 25% that didn't get there, but that's a pretty encouraging statistic if you're a Saints fan, for over 75% of teams to make the playoffs after starting 3-0. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv from TGIF in Metairie. And the Saints are 3-0, and let's talk about how they arrived at 3-0. And first and foremost, they've made plays when they've had to. A defensive play against the Atlanta Falcons to win a game, and then an offensive drive to win a game at the last moment. So, Brian, as you look at the three games thus far, the three victories, and you review the numbers, you get a little bit of a picture that's pretty interesting in the difference that this defense has made as compared to a year ago when they were historically bad. That's a remarkable turnaround thus far.
It truly is. Of all the things about this 3-0 team, soon to be 4-0 team, is the defense and the fact that they've yielded, I think it's 120 yards fewer average a game from this point a year ago, Kenny. And
well, it's
look,
145.
I'm sorry, is that big a deal?
Yep.
I mean, it's just incredible what they've done, and they've done it with a patchwork defense. Not only is it a revamped defense, but they've had to fill in holes because of injuries to significant players, and they've maximized almost every position so far.
Well, to me, Torrance, the biggest thing is they've allowed 15.7 points fewer per game thus far. It's all about scoring or not allowing the opponent to score, and the bottom line is that they've not allowed the opponent to score this year.
And that's the key. One of the biggest things in the NFL, if they don't score, they can't win. I preach that right now to my little small, little toddler kids right now that play ball. They don't score, they can't win. That's what the defense they have been bending, but they haven't broke. And that's the thing. We're not giving up the big points. We may give up 3, but we're not giving the 7.
Ricky, some of the same players like Cam Jordan, like Curtis Lofton, like the safeties and and of course Jabari Greer, but you've had some new guys that have stepped in and really done a good job on this defense as well.
You know, I'll tell you what, the most important thing been the defensive front. I mean, that whole defensive front, they've been, I mean, very good ball players this year, and that's the key to them. I mean, Jordan got a lot of help up front, and those big guys, they don't give up much.
And when you look at this Saints defense overall, Rob Ryan has certainly made a difference in what they've been able to accomplish. Much has been made about the 3-4, but they line up in a 4-3, a 3-4. It's all about what they've been able to do. To me, the biggest thing is they've been able to generate pressure on the quarterback without having to blitz very often. And when your defensive line can do that, well, good things are going to happen. With regard to the Saints offense, let's take a look at what they've been able to accomplish thus far this year. And the offense, well, compared to what we're used to seeing, they've been, I don't know what's the right word, somewhat pedestrian, other than the game against Arizona where they broke out and really looked good. Time of possession, well, that's been very good. They've won that in every game, and I think that's important. In fact, they lead the NFL in time of possession. Brian, that's a key stat, and I think the way they played against Arizona was really encouraging, and I think the fact that they haven't really hit their stride yet is very encouraging.
Absolutely, and the key, I think, in the Arizona game compared to the first two games, Kenny, is their red zone percentage. They were much more successful. They were able to score touchdowns instead of settling on field goals in Arizona, and that's going to be a key in tonight's game as well.
George, when you look at this offense, what do you like most about what you've seen thus far?
Well, one thing I do like, and I think they've been taking a lot of hits on it, is they're not running the ball effectively. But I do think they are being effective because the play action is still working. Teams are still running up, safeties are still running up when Drew give that play action as a run, and they're running up, and we're getting the ball over those linebackers, able to get the ball to Graham, able to get the ball to Colston, and we're getting the ball down the field. We're not having big runs, we're not having success in the stats, but we are affecting the team that we're playing against.
Ricky, what do you like about this 2013 New Orleans Saints offense?
I mean, just like the defensive guys up front. I mean, a lot of people thought that Drew was going to take a beating this year, but those guys, man, they've been protecting them very well. And I'll tell you, that's been the key to this year, having Drew Brees not being hit and taking a beating.
To me, it's Jimmy Graham. Obviously, he's played like an elite player. He's played like the best tight end in the NFL, which, in fact, at this stage, I'd say he probably is. Tony Gonzalez is ageless, and he played great for the Falcons on Sunday Night Football, but Graham has been absolutely elite and makes you account for him and opens up opportunities for other people, Brian.
Yeah, you know, Ricky brings up a good point. I disagree respectfully with my colleague here, though. Brees has been sacked 10 times. He's been hit countless other times. I tell you what, Brett Ingles is a good offensive line coach. They miss Aaron Kromer, all right? They're not running the ball nearly as effective as they were last year, and they're not protecting Drew Brees, in my opinion, as well as they have in the past. Aaron Kromer's an outstanding coach. You can't diminish what that loss is to the Bears.
Yeah, but I think when you lose Pro Bowl offensive line each year, you're going to be effective on the line. I think that's something that happened. You look over the years, the Saints have been losing a lot of Pro Bowl linemen, not just linemen, but Pro Bowl linemen.
And that's why I said that, you know, I take my hat off to the offensive line. None of these guys Hall of Pro Bowlers, none of these guys Hall of Fame players. They lost a lot of great players, and Drew still, you know, they protected the quarterback pretty well. I mean, he got sacked 10 times, but he could have been sacked 20, so those guys doing a great job up front.
Jari Evans has been less than 100%. Carl Nix, of course, 1 year. Jermon Bushrod the next. I don't care who's coaching. You lose those kind of guys, you're not going to be as effective up front. You can't spend lavishly everywhere in this league. The rules simply don't allow it. Therefore, you have to make quality decisions in evaluating who you're going to let it go and who you're going to keep. And the bottom line is they've chosen to do it with their offensive line and letting some key guys go, and maybe we're seeing some of the fruits of that as we speak, but they're still good. We'll take a time out here. When we return, we'll break down the Saints and the Miami Dolphins as sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays in Metairie on WHNO Channel 20. while they can get to 500, they certainly aren't 500 under Sean Payton, who's dominated on Monday nights, especially at home. So when you look at that number, it's a little bit skewed when you consider the entire history of the New Orleans Saints. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, TGI Fridays in Metairie, the Saints and the Miami Dolphins. And I don't know that many people would have looked at this matchup before the season and thought that ESPN would have a couple of 3-0 teams to televise, so it makes it a marquee matchup. First visit to the Superdome for the Dolphins since 1995. Ryan Tannehill's been good, and the Dolphins have been good on third down, leading the NFL in third down conversions, which is big, and not allowing defenses to get off the field, Brian. So Tannehill's been good. I mean, all these other second-year quarterbacks get all the publicity, from Luck to Griffin to Wilson to Kaepernick, but this kid has played well, maybe more effective than any other to this date.
I agree with you, Kenny. You know, he's won 2 games on the road just this year alone against teams that at the time that they beat them, Indianapolis and who else am I forgetting? At the time they beat those teams, though, they weren't significant, but they, as it turned out, they are significant wins on the road.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the quarterback comparison for this game. Ryan Tannehill, Drew Brees, and some numbers that will pretty much reflect where they've been so far this year. You're looking at Tannehill at 66%, which is better than Brees at this point. Of course, Brees more yards. They throw the ball more. The touchdown to interception ratio is somewhat similar. Passer rating, a slight edge to Tannehill, but Brees has that 8 consecutive 300-yard game streak going, and he can tie his own record with another one against the Dolphins. So you look at these two quarterbacks, and Tannehill's played very well, Torrance, but I'm sure you give the edge to Drew Brees, right?
Oh, definitely. Give the edge to Drew Brees. The one thing that we're missing in this stat that was up in the earlier stat is third down conversion. Tannehill is doing very well on third down conversions. They're staying on the field, they're keeping their defense fresh, and they're keeping possession of the ball, which is a great thing. But one thing about the Dolphins, they have been not outscored, but they have been more yards have been made against them. Outgained, that's what I want to say. Appreciate that help right there. But they have been outgained in every game this year, but they're still undefeated.
Well, they've been efficient. They're taking care of the ball. They have been outgained in every game they played. And Ricky, in addition to that, they've given up 14 sacks. That's a lot of sacks, and they're facing a Saints team who's rushed the passer well indoors with a lot of noise.
That's going to be the key to the game, putting a lot of pressure on them. I mean, and you know, whenever you see new coaches come in like that and new young players, I mean, a lot of times teams haven't got used to them yet. They get a chance to make some noise, but I think that, you know, the Saints going to kind of settle down on these guys and show them that it's a different ball game.
Let's take a look at these two offenses and talk about comparing these two and seeing what it turns up. Well, first of all, if you look at the total yardage, the Saints with the definitive edge. Neither team has rushed the ball all that well, but the Saints have actually rushed it better than the Dolphins, who really haven't had a running game thus far this year. Remember, Reggie Bush is in Detroit. Passing yardage, the Saints, of course, with an edge there, and in points, fairly similar, but the Dolphins slightly ahead. And again, the running game, Brian, it's not really much of a factor with either one of these teams. These are teams that really need to throw the ball successfully to be good on offense.
And I agree totally with Ricky. Kenny, is that the team that protects their quarterback the best tonight. Tannehill's 14 sacks, Brees 10 sacks. Red zone efficiency, when you get into games like this, Kenny, you got to be able to score when you get in the red zone. Saints have done a better job against Arizona. Miami's done a real good job under Tannehill for the most part. So I tell you what, the other team I was thinking of was Tennessee. And both those are road wins, and those are good road wins for a second-year quarterback.
Very much so. Tennessee's a pretty good team. And, of course, Torrance Mike Wallace, New Orleans native, Perry Walker High School. Miami spent a lot of money to get him. He's a deep ball guy, so you got to be able to contain him and not let him get behind you.
Yes, I don't think he's been able to get loose like he wants to so far this year, but that's a guy that we have to pay attention to in the backfield. But I think putting pressure on the quarterback eliminates a lot of those big plays down the field.
Ricky, you're familiar with the Dolphins. As mentioned, you keep an eye on them. And what do you see in this Miami offense that could pose problems for the Saints defense?
Well, what I see more, they're trying to get the ball to the wideouts. I mean, they're trying to make the big play in the home run. And, you know, the first week, Wallace kind of complained he didn't get the ball enough. And now they're kind of trying to get the ball to him. They put a lot of money into him, and he wants the ball. But, you know, we got Kenneth Lewis, you know, those guys, they played both of them from New Orleans, so it should be a great matchup. Yeah,
they both play together at Perry Walker High School, which makes it pretty interesting. They know each other extremely well. No secrets there. Bragging rights on the line. Let's take a look at the defenses of these two teams and compare the numbers of what we have where the Dolphins are concerned. Total yards allowed, substantially more than the Saints. Rushing yards, similar. Passing yards, big edge to the Saints. And, of course, points, a definite edge to the Saints. Saints are 4th in yards allowed, Brian. They're 5th in points allowed, and that's a remarkable story to this point of the season.
Absolutely, and again, you know, they've done such a great job. It's not smoke and mirrors. They've got young, talented players who are aggressive, and they love playing for Rob Ryan. And I'll tell you what they've done is they've bought in to Rob Ryan. And you guys know, being players, there's so much about confidence, swagger, and playing with confidence. And this is what sets this defense apart from a year ago.
And you're right. I think Rob Ryan does bring a little attitude, brings a little excitement, has the wild hair and the big gut and all good things. Teams love it, love it, love it, love it. But they're out there, they're playing fast, they're playing aggressive, they know where they're supposed to be. When guys know where they're supposed to be, they can play fast. And that's the one thing you see this year more so than last year. They know where they're supposed to be and they're playing fast.
Well, the whole thing about it, too, is coaches let them play the game. You know what I mean? He found out what a guy's strength is, and he played to their strength. And that's what a coach's supposed to do. You got a lot of coaches, like, you know, in the last year's system they had, it didn't fit the guy's scheme. You know, the scheme that they tried to run last year, a lot of these guys, they individual players. You got to let them play individual, and they can beat their man, and that's what coach let them do.
And that's what Ken was talking about earlier. He was talking about basically guys 3-4, 4-3. It doesn't matter. He's playing guys to their strength. Right. That's why they're able to go out and play fast and play aggressive. And that is what the Saints defense used to be back in the days, and that's what we're getting again.
Ricky, you like the Saints offense match up against the Dolphins defense?
Yeah, but Terrence saying what the Saints used to be back in the day with defense, but they didn't have that kind of offense that they got now.
What are we talking about defense?
I think they had about 4 or 5 more Super Bowls that had that type of offense that they had.
You played defense, he played offense. So, in other words, if your offense was more productive, I'm just translating what you're saying here. What's up with that?
Okay. Well, the one thing I know, I helped out the defense. You know, I was the one that getting the defense prep.
You got it. We'll cut you some slack. It's all good. When we return, we'll take a look around the NFL as to what happened this past weekend as sportsNOLAtv continues on WHNO Channel 20. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. The Saints playing on Monday Night Football for the 34th time tonight. Who was the Saints' first ever opponent on Monday Night Football? Was it the Los Angeles Rams, the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Atlanta Falcons? Think about it. We'll have the answer for you a little bit later on in the show. I know you'll enjoy it. I was at the game, so it's pretty easy for me to remember, and I guess I'm giving away my age. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv with Ricky Torrance and Brian from TGI Fridays, 3330 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie. Week 4 of the NFL season produced some more interesting results, and we're starting to get a clearer picture of who are the contenders and who are the pretenders as we look at results from this past weekend. Of course, the Thursday night special, San Francisco rebounding to beat the Rams, who are really struggling. And I don't know about Sam Bradford. Maybe we should talk about that. The Buffalo Bills, here's a good young team that's emerging with a good young quarterback, and they took down the Ravens. Joe Flacco got that big money. He threw how many picks? Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How about Cleveland? Everybody wrote them off and bashed them 2 weeks ago. They're 2-0 since they traded Trent Richardson. They shut down Cincinnati. Detroit outscored the Bears, which will make them mad heading into their home game with the Saints next week. It was Seattle in overtime over Houston. What a huge road win for Seattle. Got to consider them the favorites in the NFC. How about Indianapolis and how good they look and how bad Jacksonville looks? Speaking of bad, how about the Giants and how bad they look? And Andy Reid, does he get Coach of the Year already? 4-0. And Minnesota over in London over Pittsburgh. Arizona makes Tampa Bay winless through 4. Tennessee crushed the Jets. So much for Geno Smith. Denver, ridiculous. More on that coming up in our hot seat segment. Washington rallied past Oakland. Matt Flynn, And then San Diego rallied past Dallas. Phillip Rivers looks like a different player this year. And much to the delight of Saints fans, New England held off Atlanta 30-23 in the game on Sunday night. So, as you look at the results of these games, we talk about what impressed us the most. And Brian, as you look at those games, what are you looking at that sticks out?
Well, there's a number of compelling stories, Kenny. You touched on them briefly. I'm gonna focus on the Seattle-Houston game. And Matt Schaub's performance just reinforces what many people think. He is not an elite quarterback. To have a 20-3 lead at halftime and to throw a pick like he did to Richard Sherman that was returned for a tying touchdown, those plays are not made by elite quarterbacks, $100 million quarterbacks. And this is why Houston's going to have a hard time fulfilling its dream of not only winning a Super Bowl, but getting to a Super Bowl. Matt Schaub cannot win big games.
Oh, I like it. Hey, I'm with you on that one. But this weekend, the thing that stuck out to me, the Giants. Oh, it's not that they're losing, it's the way they're losing. The Giants are getting blowed out. I don't know what it is, but Eli and company definitely have to turn things around. The defense is not what the big G-men used to be on defense, and the offense is not putting up any points like they used to. I don't know what they have to do to turn things around over there, but they definitely need to straighten up and make it quick.
Rick?
I'll tell you what, the Denver Broncos stand out to me. I mean, the way Peyton Manning playing at 16, 17 years in the league, this guy just unbelievable the way he picked teams apart. I mean, if they're in the right defense, he still check off to another offense or play and hit the wide open man all day like that. And that's just amazing the way Peyton playing this year.
And for me, it's the Detroit Lions. They scored 40 on the Bears, who, by all accounts, have a pretty good defense. The Lions are playing more like they played 2 years ago than the way they played last year. Matthew Stafford is good. Megatron is the best. And Reggie Bush, when healthy, makes quite a difference. He had a heck of a game against the Bears. He's still a very good football player, and he gives Detroit something they haven't had, a threat out of the backfield, which they haven't had in recent years, as I alluded to. So I was very impressed with Detroit. Makes the Bears a hungrier team going into their game with the Saints at Soldier Field, a place the Saints have struggled at. But we'll see how that works out. Things change in a week's time. You never know how that's going to work out, but we'll see how that turns out. Now, as a result of what's happened so far, the NFC South Division standings are pretty interesting because now the Saints, look at this. I mean, they're already 3 games clear of the Falcons, 4 games clear of the Buccaneers through 4 games. The Panthers, who could easily be 3-0, they're 1-2. So if the Saints can win tonight, they're up 2 in the loss column, 2.5 overall on the Panthers, and they're up 3 full games on Atlanta, which, Brian, means that second Atlanta game might not be do or die, and the games with Carolina might not be do or die. If you build up a big enough lead, then certainly you can offset the magnitude of those contests.
Well, what a difference a year makes, huh? At this stage, Atlanta was 3-1, Saints were 0-4, and Atlanta was running away with the NFC South. Like Kenny said, now the Saints have a real good chance to put a stranglehold on this division and maybe play for home field advantage. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but look at the schedule. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I think so. And home field advantage is going to be big in these playoffs. But I like what the Saints are doing right now. Right now, we just need to win tonight. First quarter belongs to the Saints. 4-0. That's what we're looking at right now. Just to come in 4-0. Let the second quarter take care of itself. Focus on this game. Get this game. Do not slip up and let Miami come in and win this game. It could definitely put you in not a bad situation, but definitely can keep us from extending this lead that we have on Atlanta, because I think they're the only team out there, if anybody's going to put pressure on, is Atlanta.
Ricky, we talked about the Falcons and talked about Matt Schaub. Well, you might be able to apply the same thing to Matt Ryan. This is a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback. He doesn't make the big plays in the big situations. New England gave them a turnover. They had a chance to tie that game. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone. I like Matt Ryan. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a great quarterback.
Well, I mean, he tried to go for the home run a little too much. I mean, he got a great tight end. He should use the backs out the backfield. He never throw to the backs out the backfield. He don't use the tight end enough. I mean, the tight end, he should have caught about 15 balls yesterday. He didn't use them enough, so that's the problem. He want to go deep too much.
Well, I tell you what, Kenny brings up Matty Ryan. Matty Ryan, their offense is 3-11 in the red zone the last 2 games. And that is not the mark of a team that believes it can go to the Super Bowl. until they are able to score in the red zone consistently. Look at the weapons they have. Okay?
Unreal.
The weapons.
You forget about Douglas. I mean, White's not been 100%, but he's good.
Yeah.
But not only that, guys, take a look at their coaching as well. He's making some bad decisions as well. He's putting them in some bad situations.
I think you have to start taking a look at their head coach. I mean, frankly, because I like Smith, but I don't see him winning big games. I just don't. And I think that when you look at the competition for what they put into that team, he's got to start delivering. When we return, it's our hot seat segment. Best quarterback ever? We'll debate it as we continue on sportsNOLAtv. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening surrounds Monday Night Football in the Saints' history. Saints playing for the 34th time on MNF tonight. Who was the Saints' first ever opponent on Monday Night Football? Was it the Los Angeles Rams, the Dallas Cowboys, the Kansas City Chiefs, or the Atlanta Falcons? Common sense tells you they played the Falcons enough, but it's the Kansas City Chiefs, 20-17, September 25th, 1972. I was there. Archie was the quarterback. Hank Stram was on the opposite sideline. They would eventually hook up on the Saints sideline, and that didn't work out either, largely because Archie was hurt during that period of time. But I remember that game vividly at Tulane Stadium, and it was a good football game. Saints actually played well and had a chance to beat a team that was a championship team in the Kansas City Chiefs. sportsNOLAtv continues from TGI Fridays in Metairie, and it is time now for our Hot Seat segment. And the Hot Seat segment is brought to you by Pride Services AC and Heating. Pride Services handles all your AC and heating needs. Since 1984, Pride Services skilled technicians have serviced and repaired all brands and models. They never change their on-site estimates and pride themselves on fast, reliable service. Get out of the hot seat and call Pride Services. They'll fix it today. Since 1984. Our hot seat topic of the day. Is Peyton Manning the greatest quarterback in NFL history? And if not, who is? Brian Alley Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan. And by the way, your friend Howard Cosell called that first Monday night game at Tulane Stadium, along with Dandy Don and Frank Gifford.
How did he see it?
Thank you very much, Brian.
Ricky Jackson. Maybe that was Keith Jackson. Anyway, we're digressing. All right, there's many ways to answer Kenny's question, but I'm going to do it this way, is that the one aspect that I'm going to say to judge the best quarterback is by the number of championship rings he has. And in that number, you've got, of course, Terry Bradshaw, you've got Joe Montana, you've got Tom Brady. Peyton Manning is an outstanding quarterback. He will go in the very first day that he's eligible to go into the Hall of Fame. He's that good, has played for that long. He's an enduring quarterback. But of those three guys that I mentioned, those would be one of the three. I'm going to then go down even further and say the one guy that I'd want a quarterback to win one game and one game only is Joe Montana. He's the best quarterback, in my opinion, that I've seen, okay? And to win one game with as many skins as he has on the wall, I'll say Joe Montana.
Joe Montana. Great choice. Now, I grew up with watching the Cowboys. A big fan of Terry Bradshaw. I'm about to say that the guys that I used to hate, the Steelers, but Roger Staubach was my guy. I used to love Roger Staubach. I thought he was the best quarterback ever until I grew up and started to learn more about football and get more involved in football and playing football. And the one guy that I've seen out there is Joe Montana. I love Peyton Manning. I think he's the best right now. He's my favorite player right now. I love to watch him play. I love the excitement he brings to the game. I like the effort that he puts in the game. I like all the studying and the dissecting that he does to other teams and all. I love seeing that about him. But great quarterback, will be a Hall of Famer. But I don't want to judge him off just because he didn't get the rings. But I still think he's a great quarterback. But something about Joe Montana, man, this guy, he was money. I saw him throw balls. I'd never seen his receivers have to dive, jump, or fall to the ground. They always were catching and running the ball. He always had great placement, didn't have a strong arm, but great timing. as a receiver, a guy playing in the NFL, I would love to have played for him.
Well, you know, second quarterback's been my job, but I played with Dan Marino in college, and you know, he was always a favorite of mine. And Joe, playing against him over the years, it was hard for us to beat San Francisco with Joe back there. And looking at Peyton, I put Peyton up there with all those guys. I think that he's one of the best quarterbacks today. Tom Brady, great quarterback. But, you know, you had to go with one. Marino don't have championships or anything, so I would have to pick Joe too, you know, because he done won the championship. But all those guys got great talent. I like them all, you know, but I would take Joe Montana too.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the thing is, I don't want to get, because a lot of people like to put rings, but we have a lot of great players that didn't get rings, but played the game extremely well. And I think Peyton plays the game extremely well. He has some hiccups in the playoffs and all, and big moments define great quarterbacks. And I think Joe Montana has been in a lot of big moments, and he showed up and showed why he's a great quarterback. It's a guy that was money in the bank when it came down to the last minute trying to win ball games, and he showed it time and time again.
You can't leave Drew Brees out, you know what I mean? They can talk about all those quarterbacks, but if I had to take Drew to go down the road with, I'd put him in my car and go with him.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers as well. A lot of
Well, not yet. But that's why the question is so, there's multifaceted to that question, because are you talking about championship rings? Are you talking about victories? Are you talking about win one game and one game only? That's why I like Montana. He's the kind of guy that has that dynamic about him that will win championships.
Well, you said 4K earlier.
All right, it's time to render a judgment. The judge is going to speak here. It's a broad-based question, but it's a great debate. The way Peyton Manning is playing at the age of 37 and the way he's delivering in incredible fashion speaks volumes about just how great he is. He not only is in the conversation, he could be that guy. He's unquestionably, in my mind, in the top three. Great quarterbacks in NFL history are not defined by the number of championships they won. That is an adjunct and an additive, in my opinion. Do you really think that Trent Dilfer was a great quarterback? He won a Super Bowl. Do you really think that Terry Bradshaw was the reason the Steelers won all 4 of their Super Bowls? He was the reason they won 1 or 2 of them, absolutely. He had nothing to do with the first one, I can tell you that, but they won it nonetheless. Do you think Ben Roethlisberger is an all-time great? He's won 2 Super Bowls, and in one game, he didn't play well at all. It's not about championships. Joe Flacco last year, in Week 11, got his offensive coordinator fired. His name is Cam Cameron. He's at LSU. I think he's doing a pretty good job with Zach Mettenberger. Several weeks later, the Ravens were NFL champions, and Flacco got one of the biggest deals in NFL history, and everyone was ready to pronounce him as one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. Ridiculous. We know who those quarterbacks are. They're Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they're Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, not necessarily in that order. As far as the greatest quarterback in league history, I would probably go with Joe Montana because he was the coolest guy I ever saw under pressure, and he delivered game-winning drives continuously. And oh, by the way, he did it in championship games, which was big. To me, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady are 1 and 1A in the next slot. And oh, by the way, they're not finished yet. Stay tuned as that chapter continues to be written. sportsNOLAtv continues in a moment as we talk college football, LSU, Tulane, and prep football here from TGI Fridays. It's the site you want to be on. It's sportsNOLA.com. There you go, sportsNOLA.com. It's where you want to be. It's where we go. It's where we contribute to. It's what we love, and we know you will too, sportsNOLA.com. What's not to love about an exciting football game where 85 points are scored, unless, of course, you end up on the short end of it, as LSU did at Athens against Georgia. This game unfolded pretty much the way we thought. Was anybody going to get a stop? And Aaron Murray, we know how good he is. but he had receivers running wide open all day. It wasn't just beating LSU defensive backs, it was busted coverages all day long. So Ricky, I'll start with you. First of all, Zach Mettenberger was great. Jarvis Landry was fantastic. But when you see all these busted coverages, what does that tell you as a defensive player?
Looking at their playbook, you know what I mean? And that's the whole thing. Because a lot of these guys, with LSU, you got to go man-to-man with these guys. These guys are not used to zone, and you can tell that. Whenever you try to put these guys in a zone, when they went trips or too wide, these guys didn't know who they're supposed to be covering. So they should have did a whole lot more just man-to-man coverage.
Brian, when you look at the way they couldn't cover, would you consider blitzing more, just trying to disrupt Aaron Murray?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was a perfect storm. Negative for LSU, perfect storm for Georgia in the sense that no pass rush and a defensive secondary that looked like they weren't ready at all. Here's a perfect example. Look at this, straight up the gut, okay? Where's the coverage there? They were looking at each other the entire time. DBs were looking, but there's no pressure, Kenny. And this,
That's why I told you they should have been playing man-to-man.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And not only that, but you know what? Les Miles said it a week ago. He said that we will know more about this team with SEC games under their belt. Well, you know what they know right now? They got a young defense that isn't ready for prime time just yet.
Well, they rushed for much of the day, as we've seen in a lot of these highlights, and got no pressure, and it became pretty easy. And from an offensive perspective, Torrance, you can't do much more. Zach Mettenberger has answered every question imaginable. This kid's playing great football, and he did it on the road in front of all these fans that were hostile to him where he used to be, and he was absolutely fantastic. That, by the way, was another great example of busted coverages. They were everywhere, as you see the final numbers. But certainly when you score 41, you know your offense played well, and Mettenberger was simply superb.
He was great. And one thing about this young man, he grew up. He grew up in this game, and he showed that he's ready for the next level. Awesome performance. But the one thing I do love also about this team, I love the receivers, man. I tell you, they got 3 receivers down there making big catches, big plays, and they have a human highlight. The human highlight, Landry. Listen to me, guys. The best receiver in the country this year, I think so, by far. Human highlight every game, and Mettenberger, I know he is glad and excited to be throwing the ball to this guy.
He's really matured, and I don't think you're too far off on Jarvis Landry. He's been that good. He's been simply outstanding. Brian, maybe it's time to start playing some younger players on defense based on what we've seen.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, you know, they've lost one game here, but their future's still bright as this season goes forward. They've shown what they can do. Even a second loss would not take them out of a BCS game. But you know what? I think he's got their attention now. Coaches look for teachable moments. Les Miles and Chavis and Cameron, they have teachable moments up in Baton Rouge right now.
If they can win out, Ricky, they're going to play for an SEC championship against Georgia.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man, that ain't going to be vital for them because they need to win out all to have a chance. But just looking at the quarterback yesterday and just seeing the story on him that his mama is the head secretary for Coach Rick. I mean, I would just have a lot of building up yesterday, so I was glad for his mama she can work the rest of it.
Yeah, she was wearing purple and gold and cheering for LSU, as you might imagine, and understandably so. That was a tough spot for both her and her son, who, of course, started at Georgia. It was a really good road trip for Tulane. Just think about this. A year ago, Louisiana Monroe beat Tulane 63-10. This time, Tulane goes to Monroe. They ran for over 250 yards. That, to me, is the story. Offensive line block. Running backs ran hard. And when you run the ball like this, look at this, great determination. Get my helmet off, you're not going to tackle me, says Rob Kelly. They ran the ball very well, jumped out to a 24-0 lead, Brian, and obviously they were never headed in a 31-14 victory.
You know, Kenny, think about this. 3 wins, they're halfway to becoming bowl eligible. And they've got a good shot. If you look at their schedule, who knows? But Kenny's absolutely right. You go up, you run on the road for 250 yards, 5 turnovers, 5 sacks, and they hold ULM to 26 yards rushing. That's the kind of victory recipe that Curtis Johnson likes.
Well, there's Jordan Baptiste, who got a Player of the Week honor, who had a tremendous game and forced a fumble return for a touchdown. And Nick Montana continues to deliver the goods. Really good throw under pressure there, Torrance.
Yes. Yeah, I know he's happy about this game as well. You know, the last game he played in, if I'm not mistaken, he got sacked, he got hit a lot of times. We talked about got knocked down probably about 12 times, and to have a 200-yard rushing game, I know he was excited about that.
Three-game road trip, Ricky. They won 2 of them, and now they got North Texas at home for homecoming Saturday. A great chance to be 4-2.
Well, I tell you what, I think he got one of the best running backs in the country. I think he's ready for pro. I mean, you know, I look at him run, and man, he do a lot of things that great backs do.
I promise you this, Tulane's not paying North Texas State $975,000, which is what Georgia did 2 weeks ago.
I hear you.
And they best be ready for North Texas.
Absolutely. That's a good club.
Team.
Be ready. All right, it's time now for our sportsNOLA.com Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club WGSO 990 AM Prep Player of the Week. Always tough to pick one, but for week 4, it's running back George Marrera of the John Curtis Patriots. Marrera was superb, 19 carries, 161 yards, 3 touchdowns, including the game winner with 26 seconds left. He's getting a lot of offers right now, strong, physical, quick, and the magnitude of that game, 38-33 win for Curtis Bryant, is the reason he gets this award and richly deserves it.
Kenny, it was a classic. You know, the ESPN Classic games, that was a classic game. And how Carr came back from that big hole, it was an incredible game to watch.
Well, and just so many things about it. They were down 30-6. They came back, looked like they were in control. Curtis lost their quarterback, Abby Tuzet. That changed the game.
Absolutely.
With him, I think it's a different game, but give Carl the credit and give Curtis the credit for coming back and finishing it, Torrance.
Oh, yes. I had the opportunity to see the game on the television, and it showed the crowds, how many people were there. And I saw the crowds at the Tampa, Arizona game, and they had more people there.
There you go. And a whole bunch of college coaches that are right.
Bo Pelini.
Just seeing all the college coaches there, knowing that you got a lot of talent out there on the field, and that's the key to it. You know, this is a heavy recruited area, and I mean, college all over. They know they can get a good player coming here, and the other night they just had all of them there.
Yep, Division I players all over the field. Our first NBC Prep Showcase continued this past weekend with the De La Salle Cavaliers taking on the Thomas Jefferson Jaguars from Hoss Memphis Stadium, and this was a good one, competitive game throughout. Cavaliers breaking a big play. Now, this was a gut check win for De La Salle. They had to play with their 3rd string quarterback. Top 2 guys are out, and then their 3rd string quarterback gets hurt in the game. And still they find a way to win this game against Thomas Jefferson 21-10. Brian, you love high school sports. That's what it's all about. Next man up just goes out and plays.
That's incredible. Third quarterback comes in and wins the game. Wow, outstanding.
Incredible, and big plays with the name of the game here. It's tough for teams to sustain drives in this game. De La Salle won it by the score of 21-10. And our first NBC Prep Showcase continues this coming weekend. The matchup of 2 teams that scored 140 points combined last year. Newman and Carver. Wow. 72-68 last year. Newman won it. Expect more of the same from these high-powered offenses. You can watch it Saturday at noon on WHNO Channel 20, live at sportsNOLA.com Friday night at 7 p.m. It ought to be great. We hope you'll tune in and enjoy it. When we return in just a moment, we'll give our predictions. Stay tuned. Saints and Dolphins. What do you think? As sportsNOLA TV continues from TGI Fridays in Metairie. Fridays Restaurant in Metairie, where variety is the spice of life, and TGI Fridays has variety covered. Choose your favorite appetizer, slow-cooked Jack Daniel ribs, and wait until you try the new variety of burgers. 2 locations, Metairie on Veterans and across the river on Manhattan. Great food. Come on and catch the game tonight at TGI Fridays, where in here, it's always Friday. Don't forget, Prep Recruiting Insider, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. A spotlight team each and every week. Ro Brown and Renee Nato break it down for the latest in recruiting and some great interviews with some of the best high school players in the metropolitan area. PRI, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And the John Forcade Show, Thursdays at 6 p.m., presented by Ray Brandt. John Forcade along with the analyst Mike DeTillier get you ready for the football weekend as only they can. That's the John Forcade Show, Thursdays at 6 p.m. And the Saturday lineup, woo, are we busy. First NBC Bank Prep Showcase, Carver Newman, the adding machine game at noon. Southland Conference football, McNeese State, they're awfully good against Central Arkansas at 3. And then it's a replay of Tulane football against North Texas homecoming, and that will be at 6:30 on WHNO Channel 20. Ken Trahan, TGI Fridays, sportsNOLA TV, the Saints and the Dolphins coming up next in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Who wins? Final score? and why. Brian, start with you.
Saints 27, Dolphins 13. Breeze extends his consecutive game of 300 yards or more to 9, and the Saints extend the Monday night victory string to, let's see, 9.
Torrance,
24-17.
who wins?
Saints.
Thank you.
Saints 24-17. I'm sorry about that. I left that out. Huh? I left the big part out.
We just took
the
it
reason,
for
why,
granted.
reason why, exactly. Reason why Saints been averaging 24 points a game. They will get that. They've been giving up 12. I'm giving the Dolphins 5 extra points. I give them 17.
Ricky,
I'm 31-17. So, I mean, I like the Saints. I'm always going to pick the Saints.
all right, I like the Saints to win 27-17. I think this will be close for a while. I think the Saints are too good for the Dolphins at home. Pass rush will make a difference, and Drew Brees will get untracked in this game at some point in time, and the Saints will win the day. Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you. Let's go enjoy the game.
Yes.
All right, it's all good. Sure. Captain Jackson, Captain Walsh, Captain Jones. All right. For all the guys, I'm Ken Trahan. Thanks for joining us. Be a good sport, and God bless you one and all. Rounding third and heading home. So long.